Hey there, and welcome to the DFS Build NBA edition. I'm Kevin Roberts, prepared to walk you through this fun DraftKings slate on Friday to cap the week, hopefully with a big win. Hopefully you went with our picks on Thursday Night Football yesterday because I was all over that Jets passing game. It took a little bit of time to get there, but Aaron Rodgers, Garrett Wilson, and Devonta Adams all smashed. If you had Joe Mixon in that lineup as well, you probably cashed. If not, came close to a takedown. We also had some pretty good NBA picks yesterday as well, and I'm gonna, obviously aim to help you out with that again today for this. What do we have here? 3, 6, 7 game slate, so it should be a fun one. If I've helped you out at all, or if you're watching this video just in general, smash that like button and also consider subscribing to the channel. Both those things help me out. Let me know I'm doing a good job here and helping you. And also, if you subscribe, you get alerted future videos just like this. We do cover the NBA every day, and we try to hit every NFL slate as well. And when MLB is in season, we do that too. All right, so I'm going to walk you position by position. Sorry, getting over a cold here. And just point you to my favorite plays and just talk about all the guys that stand out the most. So leading the way here is Trae Young with a 50-point fantasy projection, best projecting point guard of the slate. I think he's top 2 or top 3 projecting player on the slate. He is interesting because this game should be an up-tempo matchup with the Kings. And obviously he's been crushing it. And last time I said make a pivot away from Trae, he got almost 70 fantasy points. So I'm not going to tell you not to play Trae, but I will tell you this. There's a lot of really good plays at point guard, and this just doesn't feel like a slate where we have to go pay all the way up for a stud. I think there's other guys who are going to be, by comparison, just better plays. And even sticking right at point guard, I think Jalen Brunson stands out quite a bit at 8.4. Obviously, you're dropping down by 6 fantasy points, but that's not really that big of a deal when you're saving 1.8K in salary. Brunson is a good play no matter what. He is an amazing play if Cat is out. Cat is questionable. Unsure if he's going to play. Let me just see if there's any update on that. No, not an update yet. Let me just refresh my screen just so we have the most current information. But yeah, I don't know. Like yesterday, we kind of looked at every which way you could look at it for another injury scenario, and then like the second we got off, guys were ruled out. So I don't know what the status of Cat is as I speak. But I do know Brunson's a very good play no matter what at that 8.4K price. And a matchup with the Pistons is pretty good on paper too. Right there in that same salary area, Donovan Mitchell, Cade Cunningham, De'Aaron Fox, they're all in play. They look totally fine. You can get an unowned LaMelo Ball who has a 45-point fantasy projection, 9.9K. I'm not doing that because he is playing the Celtics and he's almost 10K. And I don't know what the deal was with the Hornets in their last game. They were yanking their guys all over the place, 11-man rotation. It was disgusting. That isn't enough to get you off LaMelo in tournaments, but the price and the matchup and the projection aren't quite where I want them to be if I'm gonna play them. The only incentive, in my opinion, is the fact that he's not going to be owned at all on this slate. If that's enough for you, then you can certainly go that route. Moving on here, I also like Tyrese Halliburton at 8K flat. He does not project that amazingly compared to some of the other top options. And then obviously there's some value guys that we'll talk about in 1 second. But his game against the Pelicans has the highest total or tied for the highest total of the slate. And I feel like a lot of the action's going on the Kings-Hawks game. So I think a little bit of this Pacers Pels game will get overlooked. Some of it will be looked at for sure for very good reason, and we'll get to that. But I feel like on the Pacers side, in particular, Halliburton with only 7% ownership, he is going to get overlooked a little bit. So if you're like me and you want to stack up Pelicans tonight, getting a run back like somebody like Halliburton is not the worst idea. Not a total necessity just because, him and Siakam aren't projecting amazingly. But I think it's kind of like Devin Booker last night. I ended up playing Devin Booker and benefited immensely because he had not gone off yet this year, and there he did. He crushed. So it's kind of similar with Halliburton. He's not really exhibited much of a ceiling so far this year, but we know he's better than that. So buying low on guys is something we absolutely want to consider in DFS. If nobody's on Halliburton because he hasn't crushed yet, hey, here's an opportunity for him to crush, and then we should have a little bit of interest in him, right? a big reason why he's not getting ownership despite that price tag, though, is obviously the real studs I mentioned already, but also Jalen Suggs, 5.8K. He's really, really hard to fade. I'm going to lock in Suggs and just take my lumps as they come. The matchup on the road with the Cavs is not fun, but we have no Paulo Banchero. So, I'm just going to fire him up and hope for the best. I don't want to fully stack the Magic here, though. I'm just going to tell you right now, I do not want to play Franz Wagner, and I personally am going to try to get away from Jonathan Isaac chalk. Jonathan Isaac has played 11 and 14 minutes so far in 2 games on the year. He's injury prone in general, and it's not a good matchup. So, I mean, I have a pivot that I want to get to, and let's just leave it at that. You can still play Isaac. He's a fine play relative to the slate, but I think if I'm going, like, the only Magic I really want to play tonight is going to be Suggs. At point guard, obviously Dennis Schroeder still stands out as a really solid play. His prices come up to 6.8K, but 35-point fantasy projection. That's enough to get me interested, just because shooting guard is kind of tough to get excited about. I will say that you can kind of just save a little cash and drop down to somebody like Austin Reeves and get a pretty similar projection. Schroeder's just safer with the role he has currently with the Nets. And obviously, right there with Suggs, the other top point guard value of the slate is going to be Jose Alvarado. No DeJounte Murray, no CJ McCollum. It's a tight usage for the Pels. So Alvarado is going to get a lot of that. He's projected for 33 minutes and almost 29 fantasy points. He is a smash lock for me at 4.6K. Do not mind eating that chalk whatsoever. Let's see. Other guys that stand out. Kobe White is a fine play at 6.8K. Jaden Ivey's price is nice at 6.2. But nobody else really stands out. I think if you want to pay for a kind of overlooked Trae Young up top at 10.2, I'm okay with that. I don't have a problem with him. I just think the discount is too great with somebody like Brunson and Hallie. I like those two guys in particular more than anybody else as far as spend ups at point guard, and the values, Suggs and Alvarado, are going to be in all my lineups. I think this is for me, it's a 5 versus 3, or it's a 3 versus 3. So I'm going to eat a lot of the chalk across 5 of my players on this slate, and I'm just going to do a single entry, by the way. And then I'm going to find how to get different with those 3 other spots. So we'll talk about that too as we go along. So at shooting guard, Jaylen Brown leads the way with a 42 fantasy point projection. He's not going to garner a lot of ownership. Nobody really stands out at shooting guard in general. Maybe Dennis Schroeder at 6.8K. I really wish Jalen Suggs was shooting guard eligible, because that would solve a lot of problems for me and probably for everybody on the slate. Brandon Ingram looks really good. The projection is not where I'd want it to be, but the price is good. He's cheaper than Jaylen Brown. Projection similar, ownership similar. Like, he's not very owned for the role he's going to take on in an up-tempo game with the Pacers. So I like him. He stands out. He stands out quite a bit. Donovan Mitchell, as I said, he looks good. Cam Thomas is an okay pivot away from Dennis Schroeder, depending on where ownership is, closer to lock. Like I said, Austin Reeves, 6.1. That's a good price for him. See any value that's popping. Kevin Huerter in a up-tempo game against the Hawks, 4.3K. You can do a lot worse than that as far as value goes. You can entertain other Orlando punts like Anthony Black or KCP. I don't really want to mess with it personally. It's just where I'm at. Then you have the Toronto guys too. Let's see. Sorry, my voice is just terrible right now, but I'm trying to just help you out and help me out at the same time. Grady Dick, 5.5K, probably the only Raptor besides RJ Barrett that I feel comfortable about, but the matchup with the Lakers is pretty decent. So I don't know. For me, at shooting guard, it's probably going to just be Dennis Schroeder. He's probably going to be kind of chalky. I'm okay with that. You could pivot to a basically unowned Kobe White, who has a similar projection and not even close to the same ownership. But yeah, I'm probably staying around that range. Schroeder, Reeves, Kobe, those are probably the guys I like the most. If I pay up, it's going to be Brandon Ingram or Donovan Mitchell. Moving on to small forward, Jason Tatum leads the way with a 48-point fantasy projection, and he's 10K flat. He is not going to be owned at all. I mean, Tatum's been smashing every single game. He is annoying because every site he's on, I don't want to play him, and then he busts off for at least 50 fantasy points. He's done that in 4 of 5 games on the year. He had 62 in his last game. and he gets the Hornets. So obviously there's major blowout risk here, which is probably the main reason I don't want any Boston players for the most part, except for one, and I'll get to that. But you can definitely play Jason Tatum because he's a really good bet to get 50 to get 50 to 60 fantasy points on this slate. But he's 10K, and I just don't feel like you have to go spend 10K on this slate at all. love LeBron. He's going to go overlooked with well, he's not getting overlooked right now. He's coming in at 17% ownership. I do hope that fluctuates a little bit, especially since I think Anthony Davis is going to be somebody people flock to. And then just RJ Barrett being there at 7.2K. I love RJ Barrett. I'm going to fire up RJ Barrett no matter what. I'm not like locked in to LeBron yet, but LeBron's a pretty nice projecting player for 8.8K. Like he's a better play than Jaylen Brown. He's a better play than Brandon Ingram. Two guys in that same price range. Compared to Tatum, he's a way better play. 1.2K cheaper and only 2 points off in projection. I'm definitely going LeBron at small forward, power forward if I'm looking for somebody in that price range, and that's what I want to do. I mean, like the 70% ownership isn't egregious. Like that's different enough at one spot that I'm not gonna like be super concerned about the ownership specifically. Obviously, Franz is a good play as far as talent and price and volume go. The road date with the Cavs is not good. And now he's like the guy on this offense. So I don't know if that's really going to translate fully. He projects pretty well though. So if you want to play Franz Wagner, you can. I'm just eating the RJ Barrett chalk instead. I think the matchup with the Lakers is better. I think RJ Barrett projects better as well. So he's going to be a little bit more owned. You probably will just want to pick one or the other, but you can absolutely pair them. Wagner is not a bad play on paper whatsoever. I just will not be playing him because I like RJ Barrett's situation a little bit more, and I don't want to eat too much chalk on the slate. I'm already eating a good amount with the 5 core plays I have today. Guy I really like is Zachary Razachier, the French player from Atlanta, the rookie, number 1 overall pick. I don't know if I said his name right, but I like him a lot. 4.5K. We still have a lot of guys out for the Hawks. Obviously, Trae Young and Jalen Johnson are the smash plays for Atlanta, but they've gotten a bit expensive. You could not say that about Zachary here. He has 4.5K. He's coming off a 35-minute, 33 fantasy point outing, and his role isn't going to change here. So he's a really nice salary saver. Projected for 33 minutes. Kings Hawks game looks like a really good DFS environment. So I'm going right back to the well. I used him last time he worked out. I'm going to use him again. Sticking to that same game, David Roddy, 4.2K. He's also a good play. He's going to be a little bit chalky too, but that's fine chalk if you end up eating it. I don't have a problem with him. He's not currently in my single entry lineup, but I don't have any issue playing David Roddy if you get there. Not really seeing that much else that stands out here that I absolutely have to get to. I mentioned Kevin Huerter. He's viable at shooting guard or small forward. He's risky, but you can do it. One other guy I wanted to say was Javonte Green. Just because the Pelicans are so banged up, he did get 26 minutes, put 24 fantasy points in his last game. No Trey Murphy, no Herbert Jones, no CJ McCollum, no DeJounte Murray. So they're pretty thin. I think you can look at him at 4.2K. There's no problem. There's nothing wrong with that. Jamal Cain isn't projected for a lot of minutes, but he's another cheap guy, 3.3K. So if you want to take a chance on these like cheap, overlooked Pels, you can do it. Throw caution to the wind. It's not safe, but they're in play for sure. Another thing I'll say, if Cat ends up being out, I guess we'll wait for a second. We'll get to that in a second at center. So disregard. At power forward, same usual suspects, Tatum and James up there. I mentioned Jalen Johnson. I have no problem with Tatum if you want to spend all the way up. I have no problem with Jalen Johnson because he's a great play in a good spot. But I think I'm just going to go LeBron here again. LeBron is way cheaper than Tatum and projects about the same. And he's only $400 more than Jalen Johnson, and he projects better. So he's in a better spot than Tatum. And I just think he's the better play of that trio up there. So 17% ownership is not enough to get me off of him. Zion Williamson, you can play him at power forward or center. Love Zion Williamson, projects extremely well. If I had to pick between him or LeBron, I would pick Zion. He's probably my favorite spend of the entire slate. really good spot against the Pacers. That is a very high up-tempo game, and all these injuries to the Pels are just going to increase his volume and upside. So if the field is really only on Zion at about 12%, I'm going to be smashing the hell out of that. Really like Siakam too. I like that whole entire Pacers Pels game. It's just like I am not going to prioritize Siakam. The price is nice at 7.6. Solid projection, fine matchup. And I would just keep an eye on the stats of Miles Turner. If Miles Turner's out, Siakam looks way better, but he's fine even if Turner's in. DeRozan's fine at 7.7 because that Kings-Hawks game is going to be fire. Really like Josh Hart at 5.9K. It's hard to make him a priority on this slate, coming in with almost 20% ownership, but he looks good, man. He's getting a ton of minutes. He does everything when he's out there. I just currently am not getting to him. I think one way to do that would be to drop down from somebody like RJ Barrett, and then you can go get an elite spend. But like I said, I don't think you need to do that. Like, I don't think you need to, you don't need to go crazy. You don't need to go get Brow or Trae Young on this slate. I think they're totally good plays, but my strategy is to not use those guys on this slate at all. All right. So what else is at power forward here? Yeah, Jonathan Isaac, like I said, 3.6 at small forward or power forward. Fire him up if you want to, projecting for 22 minutes. I just don't trust the role. I don't love the matchup. I'm just going to make a pivot to somebody else there, and I'll talk about him in a second. So yeah, nobody else is really screaming to me. So a quick recap for power forward. Zion's the top play. I like LeBron right behind him. There's a lot of other good options too, but those are my two favorite plays there for sure. And then Jonathan Isaac is a fine value, but that's not the one that I want to play today. At center, Anthony Davis leads the way with the best overall projection of the entire slate. As expected, facing the Raptors, this is just an awesome game environment overall. I have no problem with paying up for LeBron or for Davis, but he's going to be chalky, so I'm going to leverage that by playing a slightly less owned and way cheaper LeBron. It's just, that when I look at slates like this, and you have two stud teammates, and ownership is like that. I do this a lot with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown too. It's not always that simple, but they're both in smash spots, and I just think relative to the positions they play and everything, I think LeBron just looks like the better play. And also, it's like kind of like you're looking at the other options at center up top too. I love Zion. Zion can be played at center. I would much rather play Zion over Brow. And then you also have Domantas Sabonis. He's kind of like caught in no man's land there because he doesn't have a better projection than Brow, but he does have a better projection than Zion, but he's almost 1,000 more expensive. Zion's just the better play. He's just a better play. I have no problem with Sabonis. Great game environment with the Hawks. Solid projection, almost 50 fantasy points. Looks like he's going to be kind of overlooked. Him and Zion both, though. So if everybody's going to go play Brow, I don't mind Sabonis at all as a pivot at $1,000 cheaper, but I prefer Zion. I think he's probably the best play of the entire slate. Cat is a fine play at 8.1K if he's in. If he's out, obviously look to Brunson. And then if Cat is out, you can look at Nick's value at center. Let's see who we're looking at. Mitchell Robinson's out. Precious Achiuwa is out. So Jericho Sims, I guess. Yeah, that feels gross. Who's this? Huck Porty? Ariel Huck. I don't know who this guy is. 12 minutes last game. So I guess those two guys, Sims and Huck Porty, will be eating into each other if Cat is out. Or maybe they'll just go small and Josh Hart ends up being a way better play than we thought. I honestly, I hope Towns just plays, then I won't feel, obligated to play any Knicks at all. So I don't think I would go dumpster diving with those Knicks centers anyways. But yeah, I hope Cat plays. Jakob Poeltl at 6.9K, really, really good price, really good play. He is a little bit chalky at 20%. Projects extremely well. He's been smashing 16 plus rebounds in each of his last two games. The only problem is he's going to have to mess with Anthony Davis down low. So I think this feels like a trap spot. I mean, he is a good play in a vacuum, undeniably. But if Brow is actually going to come remotely close to getting there, it's pretty possible Poeltl struggles with fouls in this one. And also Davis is not a bad defender either. So on the other side, is Poeltl going to just crush as an offensive player? I don't know. So I would like Poeltl on any other slate. He did jump up in price by $600. I don't know. I think I'm out on Poeltl here. Especially since I like Zion so much on the slate anyways, and there's a value center I want to get to. So I just don't really have a clear path to playing Pirtle at the moment. But if you like him, the price and projection are both really good. I don't have a problem with them at all. Vooch at 7.7, Evan Mobley at 7.4. Those guys are totally fine, just not priorities for me. Miles Turner at 6.4K would be an okay play in this underrated game environment if he's in. If he's out, you can look at Isaiah Jackson at 4.5K. Isaiah Jackson is going to foul people and make your life a living nightmare. But he's a great value. Once again, 4.5K is still too cheap for the points per minute guy he is. So you can play for Turner to be out and just have Isaiah Jackson in there at the utility, and then pivot to Javonte Green or something if that doesn't work out. I'm probably just not going to mess with that situation and hope for either Turner to be in or for Isaiah Jackson to just bust, because I mean at 4.5K he now has to do better than he has been to really hit. You can look at Wendell Carter at 5.4K. Should see an expanded role with Banchero out. Not a priority, and it's not a good matchup, but he's there. Nick Richards has been slaying, so at 5.8K, he's a fine play. In terms of price, Jalen Duren is a really good value. His minutes have not been great. He's capped at like 30, and he fouled out in 11 minutes last game. So not a guy I really trust, but a 6.1K is certainly a guy you can use in tournaments. Jonathan Isaac is still there again at 3.6K, but I love Luke Cornett as a pivot, $200 cheaper, projecting for 2 more minutes. Has a similar fantasy point projection, and he has a way better draw as he gets the Hornets. No Al Horford. I think somebody else is out for Boston. Yeah, Porzingis. So no Al Horford or Porzingis. So Cornett should be a pretty good bet to play 20 to 25 minutes at least, and he's likely starting. So I love him. So I think he's a better play than Isaac. You could definitely play them together if you are confident in Isaac as well. But I'm just gonna play one, and that's gonna be Cornett. Not really seeing much else at center. Nothing really popping that is like a must. I guess if Xavier Tillman ends up starting, 3.3K, you can just use the same Luke Cornett logic and roll with him if you want to. He's going to get probably 15 to 20 minutes off the bench regardless, because it's a very possible blowout too, maybe even more. So, I have no problem with that. You can do that at 3.3K if you'd like. All right, for the most part, that is going to do it for me. Quick recap. My top point guard in terms of who I'm playing, I'm like Jalen Suggs. I'm not going to get away from Jalen Suggs. If I want to spend up, it's probably going to be Jalen Brunson or Tyrese Halliburton. But if you want to go get Trae Young, that's cool too. I don't have a problem with that whatsoever. At shooting guard, I'm probably playing Dennis Schroeder right now, but if you want to pay up, you can go get Brandon Ingram. At small forward, I'm going value with Zachary Razasher. I can't know. But there's so much to like here. You can use these guys elsewhere too at power forward or forward. LeBron James, RJ Barrett. Those guys are standing out the most as far as paying up. And then that applies to power forward too. And then Zion, power forward and center. If I move things around and I have the funds, the only stud that I really want to pay up over 9K for is going to be Sabonis. Compared to Trae Young and Anthony Davis, he's just the way better play. He's right there at almost 50 fantasy points. Could you absolutely argue that Brow is the guy with the best ceiling and the highest floor of the entire slate? Yes, but I don't think you have to play that guy every single time. Obviously, if he comes out and gets 80 or 90, I'm just doomed and I'll look like an idiot. But that's just the way I'm playing the slate. What I encourage you to do when you're watching videos like this is to, you have your own lineup tools so you can look at projections and ownership and all that stuff on your own. You should always have something like that to work with no matter what. My value, hopefully, that I'm providing is delivering nuance and a little bit of opinion and strategy. But you will have your own insight and approach, right? So you can take what I'm saying and combine it with what you're doing. If you came into the slate saying, I'm playing Anthony Davis, great. Then play Anthony Davis and use what I'm saying to build around Anthony Davis if that's what you want to do. It's the same thing when Taylor and I go back and forth on certain players. He will often change my mind on a player, and other times I'll just decide to stick to my guns and, play the guy I want to play or not play a certain player. So everybody watching should try to do that as well. And hopefully you can just melt and mold the perfect lineups together, or you're getting on players you weren't really on, or getting lower owned on players that maybe are not, as good a place as the field or systems are suggesting. All right, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully this helps you out. If it does, smash that like button. Let's get us up to 20 likes today if possible. Also subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. It helps the community to grow, helps me and Taylor quite a bit as well, and just lets us know that we're actually helping you guys. And also, if you guys hit any wins tonight or any other time from any advice we've given you, hit it in the comments, or just if you have any other questions about how to build your lineups or what to do for tonight, drop a comment and we'll try to respond. Thanks for watching and good luck.